Okay, so let's start with the mouth. Okay, so the mouth is where the food is ingested. If you look closely at this part, of course, you've got the tongue, and that's going to move your food around. The little bolus of food, which is like the green thing there, that's like something that you're chewing. So obviously in your mouth, you're going to be chewing things up with your teeth. You're going to be moving it around with your tongue, and then the main thing is it's going to be mixing with the saliva in your mouth, and the saliva will start the initial breakdown. Saliva starts the breakdown of starch into sugar, so you get some sugars immediately from your initial chewing. And then the other thing is that you're going to be starting to coat your food with mucus that helps it so that it can move down into your stomach and start, breaking it down even further. Notice one part of the mouth area here. If you look right here, you can see there's a place the pharynx is like the back of your throat. And then you have the epiglottis there, and notice that it's mostly up, but as food pushes through, it's going to push it down. Now what that does is it closes your trachea. The trachea are leading to your lungs, so this is why, how you can swallow and not get it into your lungs. There is also a sphincter here, like right here, that will help in case you swallow something you don't want to swallow. From here up, you can cough it out if you need to, assuming that the epiglottis is closed correctly and so forth. Or if it's right at the beginning of your trachea, you could cough it out and get it back in your mouth and try to re-swallow. So this is kind of just a protective thing to keep you from breathing in your food. Okay, and then as it gets swallowed, though, after that point, you're basically committed to the swallowing, and it's going to go down your esophagus, and it does that via peristalsis. It's kind of like pushing toothpaste up your toothpaste tube. In other words, you're like, it starts pushing at one end, the muscles behind it constrict, and the muscles in front of it open up. And as it moves down, then the constriction happens a little bit further down your esophagus, and then it just kind of keeps moving it down until it gets into your stomach. Okay, so let me change out here. So in your stomach, let me just kind of get out here so you can see better. It's out of focus. Okay, in your stomach, of course, is lined with cells called parietal cells, and you can see that there's some other cells associated with that. This is basically, these cells here are going to be part of what is producing what we know as gastric juice. Okay, so gastric juice that is produced includes hydrochloric acid, which is acid that is going to, basically, that's kind of breaking down the extracellular matrix of your cells, but it's also, it's killing like bacteria, those goldfish you swallowed, whatever. It's kind of basically killing things that are still alive. For example, plants are still alive, and when you eat them, and then, they're gonna die via the HCl. This makes your stomach gastric juice a pH of about 2, which is very, very acidic. Also, you're going to be, the cells are going to be producing mucus. Mucus helps coat the food, coat your stomach, so that the gastric juice doesn't actually damage the cells also. It also produces pepsin. Pepsin is for protein breakdown, and the way that happens is pepsinogen, which is an inactive form, is produced by the cells, but hydrochloric acid is going to convert it into pepsin, which is the active form. So it's not until the hydrochloric acid starts being produced, and that's when you get some food in there, that you actually get the pepsin for protein breakdown. Now, all of this together, the gastric juice plus food, is going to make something called acid chyme. All right, so the acid chyme is going to pass into your small intestine. All right. So your small intestine, basically, this is kind of a little view of it. It's got a lot of inundations. This increases surface area that food can be absorbed on. This is the place where things are going to be absorbed. So the stomach was kind of breaking things down, or, you know, kind of getting it into a small amount of food that is going to be passed, small particles of food that are going to be passed through the small intestines, and then the small intestine is going to be where absorption actually happens. So you have all the surface area built in. Each one of these little inundations that are part of your small intestine also have other smaller little projections called villi. And along each one of those cells is something called a brush border. That is, it's going to include a lot of little projections from each cell. And I don't know if you can see this very well, but you might be able to see it better in your book. But that is like right here. There's what they call the brush border. So again, it's surface area from the inundations, then villi that are part of that. So those little bumps are these. And then these little bumps are all along the outside edge of each villi. So there's surface area upon surface area upon surface area. And each cell then is going to be absorbing some of the nutrients that you need for your digestion. Okay, so if we're looking at the small intestine, there are the three big organs. Well, actually two, but there's three associated. So let's talk about the pancreas. So the pancreas is producing alkaline solution. This is counteracting the hydrochloric acid that was produced by your stomach to help break things down. Now this is going to be kind of neutralizing that. Then the protease, which is helping with protein digestion, and then lipase, which is helping with fat digestion, breaking it down into fatty acids and glycerol. The liver, which produces bile, is that bile is stored in the gallbladder. That way you can have a lot of it if you eat a large meal. And this is the bile basically emulsifies fat. So you might remember that's kind of like surrounding fat particles and keeping them separate from each other, because they tend to glob together because of their hydrophobic nature. So this kind of keeps them separate so that they're more easily absorbed. So those three things are helping in the villi. In the villi, basically what's going to be absorbed are the amino acids, sugars, and other nutrients into the bloodstream. That's going to go into your villi capillary, and then eventually to your hepatic portal vein in the liver, where the sugars can be stored as glycogen, nutrients, and other things perhaps are filtered out or used and then passed around in your bloodstream to the rest of your body. Also, of course, amino acids. Glycerol and fatty acids are going to go into your lymph. So let's look at that just a little bit closer. All right, so if we see this diagram here, you can see that there is a vessels that are coming in here. So you have the blood that is in this is a capillary of a villi. The blood is coming in and then returning back, and this would eventually go to the liver. You also, in the middle there, this little orangey looking thing is a lacteal. The lacteal is associated with your lymph system. So I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. So those amino acids, the sugars, etc., are going through the cells, and they will eventually get into that blood capillary and be passed into your venous system. Okay, and then in the lacteal is where the fatty acids are going to go, fatty acids and glycerol. Now the lacteal, what happens there is that it is going back through the lymph system, which is not a circular system. It's like starts here, starts in your around your tissues, and it drains back all towards your heart. It actually enters in your aorta, or near the top part of where your blood is pumped out. And that's what it's all basically going back there, and then will get distributed around your body if it's not stored along the way. All right, so basically those fats are kind of into longer term storage, so to speak. whereas the other things are more readily utilized.